What's going on, guys, and welcome back. Today let's talk about the latest, or I guess the first introduced Espa character, Winter. As soon as I saw her kit, I was very pleasantly surprised that she's not your typical thief. So we'll go over exactly what she's good at, or at least at the way I've been running her, and a lot of people I know have been running her, because yeah, she's definitely an out-of-the-box sort of thief that doesn't really operate, in the typical glass cannon fashion. But we'll go over her build. Let's do our honest review, stats, skills, artifacts, and then finally, of course, if you should pull her or not. And before we begin, guys, let me know if you did already summon, because this is a few days late. I was busy on Thanksgiving. My summons were terrible. So for Zeo, they were good. But for Espa, for Winter, I think I did 2 full pities with just one. Yeah, literally 2 full pities for 2 copies of Winter, and I got 1 artifact along the way. So definitely not the greatest. Let me know if you guys did better, or if you're waiting, stay tuned, because I think a lot of y'all should wait, and I'll tell you why. Okay, guys, let's start with a stat build, and then we'll talk about skill enhancements, artifacts, and then finally, whether or not I think you should pull for Winter. Stay tuned for that part because it's very important. Not necessarily for Winter, but for this collaboration as a whole. Okay, so stat-wise, as you guys can see here, I didn't opt for very much attack or crit damage, which is really weird for a thief, right? But I did go for crit chance. And though you that watched the Winter preview, or if you've already looked at our kit, you'll obviously pick up why we're doing this. Defense and health is actually a pretty good amount, especially when you consider the fact, right, that she's stealths herself every turn, as long as she doesn't, there's no Milim, or she doesn't get unbuffable, which sometimes she can just cleanse and give herself immunity out of. But yeah, the bulk is actually pretty good, because when she does receive that AoE damage, if you guys didn't know, while you are in stealth, you suffer, right, decreased damage from AoE attacks. So she's fairly tanky here, and I usually play with a knight for extra damage mitigation regardless. So lots of defense and health. Speed, I like to be around 260-ish. It's not really an exact number, but we'll talk about this later. But combined with artifacts, we have a very, very high chance to interrupt, fast, aggressive playstyles. And on top of that, just being able to cycle is very, very important for Winter's kit. And then crit as close to 100 as possible if you guys can get to 100. And speaking of the crit, let me guys show you here. I did opt for a crit chance neck. You know what, let me just show y'all the whole stat line, because I did roll this just today just to get her on a more specific neck, because like what kind of other unit wants this sort of setup? It's pretty rare, I think. Effectiveness ring, and if you guys notice, right, we're going for all bulk, speed, crit chance, and effectiveness, ignoring all attack, crit damage, and F-res, effect resistance, 2-piece hit set, and 4-piece speed for the bonus, obviously. So I'm pretty happy with this so far. I would like to squeeze out potentially more effectiveness, and then combine that potentially with like an artifact swap, like Alabastron, maybe. There's a few other artifacts, just so you can threaten those Destinas, those very, very high effect resist units out there. But for now, I think this is fine. So once again, we're ignoring attack, crit damage, and effect resist, and going all on the bulk, speed, and F-res with a crit as close to 100. Why crit as close to 100? Right here, guys, the blackout skill. Whenever you crit, you do additional 5,000 fixed damage. So we're not worried about attack and crit damage. All our damage, or Winter's killing potential, is going to be via blackout, and it's such a synergistic kit. It's very, very cool. So not only does it have a very rare 2-turn stun, which if they have no cleanse, guys, a lot of times that's just a game ender right there. You lock down an important unit for 2 turns, and if they can't cleanse that, they're out of commission for so long. On top of that, right, every crit will deal 5,000, and that scales up to 20,000, which I thought was going to be a rare scenario to get 20,000. But we played Winter so much today. We played lobbies, RTA, Guild Wars, and it actually came up quite a few times getting the max scaling, depending on what kind of comps, what kind of team setups are being run. So she does have a lot of killing potential later on in the match in like real-time arena, for example. Okay, so there's the blackout. The next level, this kind of just stacks or synergistic with the skill 3. It gives her that stealth, a very, very good stealth, right? One of the best stealths in the game, even better than like Assassin Coley. And then it leads into obviously level up, which grants immunity to the caster for 2 turns and fully reset skill cooldown of blackout. And this is on a 2-turn cooldown, guys. So she's going to be able to do this very often, because when you do crit with blackout, you get a 50% combat readiness push. If you have artifacts, you'll get more as well when level up procs. And on top of that, since we're such a high base speed, guys, even though this is 2 turns, a lot of times Winter is taking so many turns that it feels like she's just resetting like every single time your opponent thinks about using a non-attack skill. So she is just proccing this over and over in the right scenarios if you bring her in the right matchups, and she is constantly resetting and using the blackout to not really just stun, but also to sometimes kill Very important units. Last but not least, we have the skill 1, right? This is still a good skill, but it's the least impressive part of her kit. It's just a 40% chance to stun that can be soul burned to 100. So definitely very good. But yeah, that's kind of the whole build in a nutshell. Does it make sense? Bulk speed. We kind of want to play a longer match. We want to bring her against non-attack skill units, such as the Stina. Really, anyone. You can also, guys, get some cool effects, like she'll proc off units like Senya, units like Politis, AOL, Lionheart Sermia's skill 2 activation. A lot of those out of turn effects, you can sometimes control the field and get Winter those extra level up procs to reset the blackout and just continually push that damage, control the field. And she's very hard to kill between, if you have any mitigation, between the stealth and reduced AoE attack damage, and then building the defense and health, of course. So she's actually super tanky. She doesn't have a strong early damage, but she can close out matches while controlling the field. So fun, exactly my kind of unit. But keep in mind that archetype, at least for this style of build. I wouldn't be surprised if a crit damage build could work, like an attack crit damage build, but it's definitely not my preference. I'd rather run a different kind of thief, right? We got Assassin Coley for that job, or we have like Green Sid, Assassin Sid. We got other thieves that can do that. I want to accentuate or make sure we go all in on this kind of style of Winter. Okay, so yeah, let's move on to skill enhancements and then artifact selection. Okay guys, let's quickly talk about skill enhancements. And Winter is a nice skill enhancement unit because we can actually, if we are Mola starved, skip on so much stuff. So on the blackout, I opted to get the -1 turn cooldown just because there are rare scenarios where your opponent will try not to use any activatable skills, and it might be, you know, a scenario where you just have to take 4 turns to get another blackout. That can happen because sometimes people will try to not use skills because they don't want her to keep resetting and using those blackouts over and over. It's a win condition in its own. So I would get it because it's only 3 Mola, but if you have to skip, don't worry about this blackout skill. Really, the only mandatory one, and this is the most important, is leveling up the next level. Make sure y'all get this because getting that turn cooldown from 3 to 2 is very important. So that way you can keep resetting. This is super, super important. Make sure you spend for this. The skill 1, you can honestly skip as well, but I would try to get at least the +2, if not the +5, because getting that 10% extra stun chance, we all know how much of an RNG game this can be. Adding that 10% extra when you don't have the souls to make it 100, you know, could make or break the match. So get this when you can, but if you guys are super Mola starved, you could honestly just go for just the skill 2 and call it a day. I will probably get everything added up eventually because I really like Winter, and you know, in such long matches, she's oftentimes she's in a drawn out match. You know, all the damage will eventually add up on just hitting skill 1s and then hitting skill 3s, right? So I'll probably get it eventually, but that's more of a luxury instead of a necessity. Okay, next up, let's talk about artifact selection. I think by far the most versatile and just easiest one to run, and you'll always get value, is the Secret Art Storm Sword. The reason being because we want to bring her against units that use non-attack CL, so every single time we do, we're also double down in getting those next levels as long as, you know, 2 turns have passed. We get a combat readiness push, which is really nice. So the first thing is, if you use Winter at a 260 speed-ish threshold like mine, getting that combat readiness push and against certain fast comps like cleavers or aggro units, you can surprise the cleaver by having Winter cut in with that combat readiness push and then stun or potentially kill certain units early on. Now, beyond that, though, it's still good into standard matches because we just want that combat readiness push. The attack up is not that important, which is nice, guys, because that means you don't need a +31 like I have here. We really just want something that just gives us a benefit whenever we're using Winter. None of the artifacts are too impactful. So you could probably use a lot of different artifacts, but I think if you guys have a Secret Art Storm Sword, definitely rock this in the beginning until you figure out maybe a specialized role for your Winter. Other than that, I tested arties like RNL, Rihanna and Lucella. I'll pull it up right here. I think this is a very good artifact as well. You do really want this to be maxed though because the chance is quite low, but it doubles down on that kind of fight that I said earlier where if your opponent is holding their skills, you know, we get that extra chance to get another turn and lower our blackout cooldown that way. And then even if our opponent wants to stall us out and never give us the reset via level up, we can just Rihanna Lucella, throw out a ton of stuns, and then eventually lead back into blackout by taking extra turns, etc. Last but not least, guys, and by the way, let me know if y'all are rocking or trying any of their artifacts, but I need y'all to test this for me. I was so sad. I just figured out today after playing for 4 years that I never owned an Alabastron. Now, I had my chat earlier tell me that it's not very good, but I think I still want to try it. If I ever get one, and God forbid a level, you know, a +31, I think just the effectiveness by 35%. Remember I mentioned if I could push more effectiveness, 35% extra is huge, and if I could threaten those higher effectiveness as Soul Weavers, I think that's great. On top of that, if you do have a maxed one, 2-turn defense break, attack down, or decrease speed is very good, and healable not so much. But this proc happens on both the skill 3, since it's a single target attack, the blackout, and the skill 1. So I think this could be potentially very good, but it's definitely for a slower playstyle. So maybe I understand why some people don't like it, but please test it if you guys can on a high effectiveness build. I think it could be insane. Okay, and finally, guys, let's talk about should you summon for Winter. Well, obviously, all the stuff I talked about, I was praising her. She's so much fun. But I understand why she may not be for everybody, because that style that I just mentioned, right? The tanky sort of control the battlefield until we eventually scale up, reset our skill 3s. That's not for everybody. Some people like the faster playstyle of just running high damage thieves instead, you know? So you got to have that sort of mentality in mind, that sort of playstyle to really make her shine, at least this build that I'm talking about. Other than that, I do think you may want to wait for Winter just in general, because one, we want to see what the other 2 collab units bring out, and there should be a little bit of overlap. So Winter's going to last 2 weeks. Just make sure you keep on an eye on the timer to see if we can also get some info on the other 2 Espa units. I believe their names are Giselle and Karina. Their kits might be much better for you, and if you guys have limited bookmarks, if you're free to play, you may want to wait. Now, that being said, there are some free bookmarks you guys get, bookmarks, and these I think you should wait as well, just to get more information. But if Smilegate does end up giving a bunch of these out, some people are predicting they might give 30 out for every single banner. We get 30 total for Winter, we might get 30 for Ning Ning, and then if we get 30 for every single character, that's 30 times 4. That's enough to pity a single Espa character of your choice. Don't hold your breath though, guys. They may not give 30 every time. Just use these instead as extra ways to guarantee your Espa character of your choice. Just remember to try and wait as long as possible, get as much info. If you're not sold on Winter after hearing this review, after just seeing people play her, then just wait. I do think for limited units, guys, you try to get one of every copy, because they are limited. They may never come back, but I understand you may not have the resources to do so. So that's why I exercise caution, exercise patience. But if you just want to ask me how good is Winter, I think she's insane. I think she's so fun, and I think she's the real deal. I think she can work very well even at highest levels of play. But if you don't like the style, if you don't like that control kind of slower style, if you guys have Politis or Celine to take care of your non-attack skill, you know, punishing units, then you can use those instead and just maybe skip or pull one copy and wait till the end, wait till later if you're not sure if you like her yet. Last but not least, let's quickly talk about her own artifact, the armament, excuse me. You'll notice I didn't mention this at all, guys, when we talked about her artifact selection. That's because I don't think it's really that great for her. If you build her like I suggested, you have no issue with survivability, and you can use, you know, the crit chance. If you run a crit chance net, guys, it's going to be so easy to get close to 100%. If you have nothing else though, this is obviously fine. Getting free stats and then extra survivability is okay, but trust me, you probably won't need it. So maybe get one copy just in case you want to try it, or if it gets buffed later, or maybe another thief can use it. But for now, don't worry about it too much. It's not great for her, at least in my opinion. All right, guys, I think we'll wrap it up there. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for watching. Let me know how you like this Espa collab as a whole, how much you like Winter. I'm actually a big fan now, guys. Not of K-pop or Espa in general, but I do like what they're doing here. And maybe I will end up checking out some K-pop stuff just because I like how they're, you know, I just like Winter and all these characters so much so far. All right, guys, I'll catch you in the next one. Peace out, everybody.